What's up, guys? Welcome back to our freestyle progression series. Last week, we caught up with streamline, focusing on the head, the hips, and the heels, staying in a straight line, minimizing drag, maximizing efficiency. This week, we're going to talk about kick. Now, I see kick as a main form of propulsion in swimming. Many of you have probably been working on arm propulsions. If you've worked with Perry in some of our adult videos, you'll see that he talks about arm propulsion. Now, when we're focusing on the benefits to a freestyle stroke, we want to start from the center line of our body. We talked about streamline, keeping everything from deviating from the midline. Now, we want to propel ourselves from that midline by focusing on the kick. When I think about kick, I want to be as loose in the leg as possible, focusing on being loose in the ankle, loose in the hips, and a little bit of give in the knee. Now, what I have this handy dandy noodle here is to mimic that. My fist is the hip socket, the noodle is the rest of my leg, okay? When I'm kicking, I want to focus on being loose, keeping it relaxed from the hip, relaxed in the ankle, slight give in the knees. We don't want to be pedaling the bike, but we don't want to be Tin Man in the water either. We have to find a nice, happy medium there. Now, what that's going to look like, and bear with me because this is going to look a little bit silly, is focusing on being loose. My shoulder is my hip, knee, ankle. Sometimes people get a little too stiff in the ankle and we start clawing in the water with our kick, so we want to be loose. Some people bend their knees a little bit too much, and then that's when we start pedaling. And then if we get too stiff from the hips, many of us are stiff, I still do hip stretches every day, then we get a little bit too tight. It's finding that happy medium of a loose, continuous kick with the water. When we're swimming, we're in the water's world. We have to mimic the feeling of being in the water, mimic the feeling of waves. How can we maximize that? Now, going back to the importance of kicking, it's fundamental to propulsion. When you think about a Ferrari and you think about an F-150, what do you think is going to win in a race? That's not to say that the F-150 isn't powerful, and that's nothing against trucks, but the one difference between the two is the engine is in the back. Speedboat versus a paddle wheel, engine is in the back. If we want to be fast, if we want to be efficient, we should look to emulate those things when we're in the water.
So now we're going to go over a few misconceptions with our kick. There's common for all sorts of people, especially when you're learning or you come from a different sport, like being a triathlete, for example. First misconception I'm going to be is just kicking too hard. One of those ways is kicking from our knees. We feel like we're really kicking hard, but we're just basically kicking from the knee down and not using our entire leg, right? It should be as easy as riding a bike, but we should not be actually riding a bike. The second one we're going to go through is not using the full length of our leg. Okay, one of those ways is kicking from the ankle down. Our feet are our paddles when we're not swimming, right? So you want to be able to use them during our kick. If I'm kicking very hard at this point right here, and I'm not moving very far. Then we move into the people who don't have great body position. We talked about body position in the last streamline video. Make sure to go give it a look. When I'm kicking down here, I'm spending most of my energy trying to kick myself back up to the surface. In doing that, I'm losing a lot of the efficiency going forward and having to work a lot harder to do this. On the flip side of that, though, is kicking on top of the water. Getting too big, getting too clunky, it makes it harder because I'm just kicking air at this point and not really doing a whole lot of effort to move forward. It's a lot of working harder and not working smarter, right? The most important thing is being light and loose from the hips. As you can see here, I'm boiling water or white water at my feet. Nice, light, and loose. Don't need a big splash, just need to be relaxed. At the end of the day, you just want to focus on being light and loose from your hips. Work smarter, not harder. If we can do that, we're going to have a wonderful kick. Now that we've talked about some of the pitfalls that we experience when kicking, we're going to practice some of these techniques. I'm here with Sabera today. We're going to do some of the
different drills that we can do to help build our kick. The kick is the engine of our freestyle. As I said, continuing to keep the 3 H's in mind of head, hips, and heels, now we are adding some power to that. First, we're going to practice a little bit what not to do. I know you just saw that from me. Now you're going to see it from Sabera. We're going to do a little bit of knee kicking to see the difference. So whenever you're ready, I just want you to kick only using the knees down. So when we're kicking, you really want to focus on using your entire leg. As you can see, kicking from the knee down is not very effective. We're not using the full breadth of our leg, thus not getting the same level of efficiency and not getting the same amount of power. The important thing, like I said multiple times in the first half of this video, is being light and loose from the legs, powering our kick from the hips. So now what I want you to try is kicking with your whole leg. Be light and loose and kick from your hip. Your hip is the power source. As you can see, we get a more full kick. There's a little bit of a body line difference as well. Everything is very straight, and we have a little bit more control to our kick. A knee kick tends to get a little bit wild. It's not as effective and just not as conducive to a good freestyle. Now we're going to practice some of the drills to help counterbalance some of these pitfalls. Call it the over-under kick. So over kick is going to be kicking on top of the water, being what we call a little bit slap happy. So just kicking on top, making big splashes. And then after that, we're going to transition into under kick, where the legs are completely submerged. A lot of people have a habit of letting their hips sink. If they pick their head up too much, get out of their body line. There's a variety of reasons. But when we let our hips drop, our legs are going to drop. We're going to be kicking completely in the water and getting a added resistance, which might make kicking a little bit tougher. So first we're going to do the over kick. I want you to just be a little bit exaggerated on top of the water. Pretty decent splash. As you can see, we're kicking a lot of air. That kerplunky sound that you hear during the kick is telling us that we're kicking a little bit more air than we are water, which is thus making our kick a little bit less effective. It might feel faster because our legs are moving faster through the air medium, but once we're in the water, that's when we're gonna be getting the most of our propulsion. So now we're gonna do under kick. Don't let your heels break. I want you to still keep that light, loose kick underneath the water, but stay completely submerged. So here we're working under kick. In this particular drill, your body line should be good, but do understand that most people do have a habit of dropping their hips, which is gonna lead to this true under kick where you're completely fighting against the water the whole way. There is a lot of resistance. It's a tough drill on the hips, but it's a great one for building a good freestyle kick. And now, moving back to the correct freestyle kick, we're gonna work on, once again, being light and loose from the hips. We've practiced a little over-under, and now I just want you to do a nice standard kick. One thing I do want to stress as an aside is the amplitude of the kick. We want you to kick with a straight leg, or mostly straight leg. There's going to be some give, as I talked about in the first half of the video, but there's 2 planes that we want to talk about. First, you don't want to be kicking with your legs super wide, because then you don't create any surface tension between your legs that adds to the propulsion. Same thing, you don't want to necessarily have your knees hitting together during the kick. So finding that fine line of within your body line and not deviating from the midline is the perfect kick. In a vertical plane, we don't want this big giant scissor kick. Once again, light and loose, the more relaxed we can be while also being purposeful is going to be really helping build a very strong freestyle kick. So now what I want you to do is just build that perfect freestyle kick again, light and loose with a little bit of propulsion. Perfect body line, neutral spine, neutral head. You can see the head, the hips, and the heels in the plane, and that's what puts together a great freestyle kick. Now guys, just a little bit of a PSA to close out the video that I want you guys to think about. Going forward, we need to be able to kick in 4 different planes. So that's your stomach, both sides, and your back. All strokes are gonna have some variety of kicking in different planes. Although breaststroke and butterfly are on the stomach, freestyle and backstroke do have rotations. For this particular series, freestyle is not a square stroke. We do not always swim on our stomach. There's a constant rotation and a constant movement. So being able to kick on our sides and on our stomach is going to be really, really valuable to creating a good, strong, uniform freestyle kick that we can maintain throughout the entire progress of the stroke. That's something I want you to keep in the back of your mind. We're going to be doing rotation in a future video, so continue to keep that part of your baseline so that when we bring it back up, we're ready to implement it right away. Thanks for watching, guys.
Thanks for watching today's video. If you liked it, be sure to subscribe, share, ring the bell, comment with any questions. If you're in the DFW area and you'd like more information on swim lessons or swim team, be sure to visit www.sigmaswim.org.